On air, online, on now.
The best radio station in the world. Is right here, right now.
Welcome to chillloverradio.net.
What's going on, Chill Love Radio listeners? We have with us this evening one of the most inspirational, soulful, colorful artists with one of the most unique styles that I know. Has an album out titled Bare Knuckle Soul. He is Jackson Turner. What's going on, brother?
Bless. What's good, King? What's good? And shout to Chill for putting this together. Shout to Yaz the Face.
Man.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
We thank you for setting aside some time this evening with us, man, and speaking with us.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Well, anytime, brother.
Yes, sir.
So I want to start off with some history. How it all started for you, coming up as a youth to moving to China, life and challenges you went through, on up, on how you got started in the music. Could you give the people a background on how you got started, your life history?
Dang, I was born in Brooklyn and I grew up there as a kid, but I moved around a little bit. I spent about 10 years of my life in Nyack, New York, which is right across the river from Yonkers. And then later I moved to Washington Heights, which is, right there on the GW Bridge. And then I also spent some time in Buffalo, New York, which is where I went to school.
Wow.
But as far as me coming up, I think I got into hip-hop when I was around 11 or 12, something like that. It was around the time when I first started getting into music. I think I spent a year liking, a lot of rock music. And there was a few groups that were like rock hip-hop crossovers, and that kind of led me into hip-hop. And I remember being at one of my boys' house, and we were skateboarding and put on some Wu-Tang, and that just got me into hip-hop. And I don't know why, but it was that particular song. I think it was Protect Your Neck, or one of the early 36 Chambers songs. It really spoke to me, and I was like, and I remember I threw out all my rock CDs, and I was like, yo, I'm into hip-hop for life type of thing. Yeah, from there it became, a lifestyle. I really got into it and started freestyling a few years later, and then from there I started writing a lot. And, I'm from the 90s, from the golden era of hip-hop, and I'm sure you could tell if you listen to my music, I got that as my basis, my foundation.
Absolutely.
So being from New York, my main early influences were like Big Pun, who I don't know if some of the younger people really know about, but the man was an incredible lyricist.
Yes.
His content was never that deep, but as far as the way he spit, his flow, and the way he put words together like a puzzle, just so intricate, some crazy percussion. He's rapping like a jazz drummer kind of thing. And so Big Pun was a big inspiration. Nas was a big inspiration. Nas especially did a similar thing, but what I liked about Nas in particular was he was deep with the content as well.
Yeah, and, I agree.
But, I was all the New York heads, like Boot Camp. I was a big Boot Camp fan.
Yeah.
Wu-Tang, Biggie, and then some of the more conscious hip-hop artists like Kweli and Mos Def.
Yeah, brother. Yes.
All those dudes, yeah. But also West Coast hip-hop, too. I liked it all. I liked everything. I loved Outkast. Mm-hmm. Outkast was a big inspiration for me.
That's my group, man.
Yes, sir. I wish
it.
we had... we had more groups like that now, just so experimental.
Outkast, if you listen, we need another album. I'm just letting you guys know.
Yeah, I saw Big Boy perform at the Super Bowl. I'm thinking, where is his new album?
Yeah, man. Oh, man. Wow. what was the first CD or record that you ever purchased or ever had in your possession?
So this was an interesting story actually. When I was, even before I was 11, like I think I was a year earlier, like 10 years old or something, my pops gave me a Tribe Called Quest CD. I think it was Midnight Marauders. And at the time, I was way too young to really appreciate it, but I remember looking at the album cover and like trying to listen to it and like liking it, but not really getting it, you know?
Yeah.
Because I was just too young. But definitely that pointed me in a certain direction, which I picked up, you know, a few years later. Yeah, so that was a funny little story that my pops introduced me to hip hop. My pop's a cool dude. He likes all types of music.
Yeah, man. So,
but yeah.
When people listen to your music, right? I gotta put this out there. They notice you touch that boom bap, inspirational, reggae, soulful sound to your music, but you also is a versatile artist that can switch it up at any time. Now, what I love about it, man, that's what I love about it, man. It's just, that's a beautiful thing, man. You have your own style. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think that's important. Like, you know, I think the tendency now is often to mimic. I think we were talking about this before. Is to kind of mimic or produce a sound that can definitely sell and hit the numbers, and that it gets respect from people, right? And that's cool. Like, it's cool to do that. But at the same time, you got to be an innovator. You know, you got to develop your own style. And I feel like the era that we grew up in with hip hop, there was more people that had their own style, and that was an important element of it. Like, everyone had their own style. You would be clowned if you kind of copy someone's style too much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see a lot of that today too, as well. You know, it's like nobody knows how to be original. Everybody like pretty much copies someone else, or I gotta sound like this because this is trending right now. And I don't see that with you. You know, I see like, you come to the table, you bring a lot of colorful things to the table as far as like the industry.
Right. Yeah, and I try to also, you know, I'm not against the industry or anything. You know, I try to also make music that can sell and that people can appreciate, and I try to do a mixture. You know what I mean? So on every album I've released, I've done like a song that's a little more pop, you know, and I've done a song that's a little more in line with the contemporary sound or whatever, but then the rest of it is just up to me. I feel like it's free range for me to do what I want, and you know, because of that, I like working with a lot of other artists too. Like, I'm not really a producer myself, but I get real involved with the production. Yeah. So you could say I'm more of an executive producer, and like, I have certain producers I work with that might throw me a little concept, and I'll get the vision, and then I'll put together people to add to it. You know what I mean? Like, whether it's like a live instrumentalist or, you know, another producer go get in there and I'll have the vision. I want the chords here. I want this bass to sound more like this.
Yeah.
I want to add a female vocalist at this part, you know, and so, yeah, I like that. Being able to work with different people to then create a completely new sound, you know, that's something beautiful about music. It's collaborative.
Yes, sir. Now, a lot of your music I see is based on, from what I take as real life experience, and your point of view on life and the world. What I want to ask you too is, how long did it take you to get officially established? Because I know you know, I know you went through some things, and I'm trying to paint a picture of, for a lot of the upcoming artists, you know.
Yeah, no doubt. I have a very unique story. After getting real deep into hip hop, a few years after that, when I was around 16 or so, I started just having a lot of difficulties in my life, and I had beef with my mom. Me and my mom didn't speak for about 4 years, and I had been kicked out of my mom's house. My pops, he was around, but he was working often in LA at the time, and so he was kind of around, but he wasn't always around. So I would end up kind of sleeping on my friends' couches a lot. And, on the one hand, I learned a lot about hip hop doing that, you know, but on the other hand, it was a very difficult time for me emotionally, and went through a lot of stuff I probably shouldn't get into, but I did have the chance to get into college, and I went up to Buffalo, New York, and up there, I think it was my first 6 months there, bro. I saw some dude get shot right in front of me.
Man.
Like, just bleeding all over me, basically. Dude ended up living, but it was traumatic for him and for me. I felt like, damn, this is a fucked up situation that I just saw. And,
Yeah.
it made me think. It was kind of the last straw that kind of made me change my life up. You know what I mean? Like, it made me really think about why we have violence in this world. You know what I mean? And what's the cause of it? You know what I mean? I feel like it was bigger than just individuals.
Yeah.
Because some countries, some cultures have less violence than others, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Or sometimes in history, there's periods where people go to war and there's periods of peace. So it's like, it's bigger than just individuals. It's about like what influences individuals to do that. You know what I mean? So I started when I was around 19 or so. I started really changing my life up. I started getting into a lot of health and fitness, getting real focused, like training every day. I was a vegetarian for a while, reading a lot, and and not only that, but trying to be a more focused and more good, decent person. You know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
Then I had a blessed opportunity to go on an exchange program with a school in China. And I was around 20 when that happened. And I went there for 6 months, and I just really liked it. Especially in the beginning, I liked it a lot. And part of that was like, it gave me a comparison to, you know, the United States. It was like, what's a different culture like? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I started traveling a lot. And I ended up going back there and just kind of getting comfortable there and just fitting in. And there was a lot at the time, you know, I didn't have any money, bro, man.
Yeah.
That was very difficult for me. But the exchange program I was on was like all paid for and stuff. And once I got out there, I realized that, you know, as a foreigner, you can get a job easy, like teaching English, and it was just easier to get a decent job out there, you know what I mean? So that helped a lot. So it was I spent a long time learning Chinese. So that was a huge thing for me, and it was very challenging, and I'm glad I did it. But then after that, after I had learned Chinese pretty well, I was like, I need to get back into music. It was just calling me. And so I also found there was a lot of interesting opportunities out there to get involved in music. And I started out, actually I met my boy, he's from Atlanta. He lived out there, and I met him when he was kind of up and coming. He had just moved out there, and he was doing a show with a Chinese soul singer, or soul R&B singer. And they had a little band. It was this tiny show, and but they were killing it. He was like, you know, this talented funk, jazz, soul pianist. He was like this dude's a genius. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And it was such a small show. I just went up to him, and we started kicking it, and we really hit it off. And he had a little studio in his apartment, and he started making beats for me, and I was recording there. And then from there, he kind of introduced me to some of the hip hop heads. Later on, that girl that was his girlfriend, that Chinese girl, got big, bro. She got mad famous. She's like one of the top superstars in China at the moment.
Oh,
and
man.
he was able to ride that. He didn't really get famous, but he was able to get a good connection with the record label, do a lot of touring.
Yeah.
And even after he broke up with her, he would still be her pianist. And so that dude was mad connected. And then that later helped me get connected with the scene out there. Anyway, that dude his name is Joel Fortenberry. He's from Atlanta. Like I say, he's a musical genius. He got a lot of music out there under the name J-Dub.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, shout to him.
He actually, along with Soul Speak and TB Ray, you had them on your first solo album, right? Back in 2013.
That's right. Soul Speak is another talented musician. He's also not very well known. He's a Chinese American from LA that is also a genius musically, bro. This dude studied classical guitar his whole youth, and then later he got into hip hop and then electronic.
Wow.
And that dude is just, that dude's a wizard. So Soul Speak and Joel and another dude, TB Ray, were the ones that kind of helped me with my first album.
Wow.
Anyway,
I gotta
to answer,
ask you too.
hold on.
No,
to answer your, well, there's a lot more, so I don't know. You want to break it up, or you want me to keep going?
No. I was just gonna. I don't want to lose your train of thought as well, brother. But I just wanted to. It's a question. Go ahead and I'll chime in later.
Well, so basically, to answer your question, I started performing in China around 2011 or so, and it took me about 6 years to get a record deal, and I'm signed to one of the biggest Chinese record labels.
Okay.
Now, the reason that kind of happened is because in 2017, Chinese hip hop just blew up. They created a TV show called The Rap of China, and it became one of the most successful shows in the history of Chinese television. It got like, per episode, they were getting like 200 million views per episode or something.
Wow.
Heard
about that.
Well, that was wild to see that when I was there, and to see that, because I was still there at the time.
Yeah.
To see that change, bro, because for years, hip-hop was underground phenomenon in China. It wasn't nearly as big as it was in the U.S. And I knew all those kids, you know, they would come to the shows, we would kick it, freestyle, like they were broke, you know what I mean? These were not professional kids. These are all underground things.
Yeah.
And then this show came along and, you know, basically took those kids, handpicked them, and like made them into celebrities overnight. And so some of my friends have become the biggest hip hop stars in China, which is wild. But then in addition to that, it brought up the whole space, you know what I mean? And I had been featured on a song with like one of the founders of Chinese hip hop. His name is MC Weber. Shout out to MC Weber.
MC Weber, yeah.
He's kind of like KRS-One of Chinese hip hop. He's that type of dude. And he put a song out that I was featured on that did very well, went viral. It has over like 1 million views out there. It got number 11 on iTunes hip hop charts in Hong Kong. And that kind of led me to getting signed. It was the success of that song. So that was a wild experience, bro, because like it's so wild. Like these underground rappers that you would never expect anyone to pay attention to. Yeah. Even the ones that didn't go on the show. Like some of my boys, they were doing this like hardcore, like aggressive, super fucking lyrical, like hip hop. And then all of a sudden more and more kids start coming to the shows. And then all of a sudden, like, they know all the kids all know all the lyrics, and then they're packing out like 3,000 people at shows and shit, and you're just like, and you saw this in less than a year, bro.
Oh man,
it was wild. I've never seen anything like it in my life, bro. And then afterwards, you know, the kids would be coming up asking for their autographs and shit. And I'm like, what? This is crazy.
Man, I gotta ask you, how did it take you? How long did it take you to learn another language, man? Because I know a lot of people, like you say, you actually could rap in Chinese or English.
Yeah, that took a long time. I would say that in the beginning, you learn very fast as far as like being able to have a basic conversation because you're kind of forced to.
Yeah.
So I have some funny stories, like my first couple weeks there, like I couldn't, you know, the basic challenge of like trying to order food in a restaurant, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, so you're like pointing a lot, body language, there's all types of misunderstandings and shit. And like, you know, I would go home and then it's a different written language. It's not an alphabet. You have to memorize that shit. So I would go home and I would at that time they didn't have cameras on the phone, so I would like write down the characters of the food I liked, and I would look it up and like, you know, just memorize. And I would say I learned real quick to get like into a basic conversation. Like, you know, 6 months I could get into a taxi and like tell the dude where to go. I could like, you know, have a basic conversation with someone. Wow. But then after that, it kind of like your progress starts slowing down, and it just takes years and years.
Yeah.
And so I would say it probably took me 8 years to really get really fluent.
Oh man, yeah. I heard it was a difficult language to learn, man. I really. How was it? How did that affect, like, you wrote a track in Chinese as well. How difficult was that writing a song and trying to express yourself in another language versus English?
Yeah, that was wild. So, you know, I would be doing shows like, you know, we would be doing like 200, 300 person shows.
Yeah.
And oftentimes my boys would be the headlining act, and then I would get invited to open up for them. Later, I started opening up my own shows. But it started out with me using Chinese to hype up the crowd in between my English songs, you know what I mean? Which the crowd would just go nuts for. And then from there, you know, obviously there's a market in China of foreigners, non-Chinese people trying to do entertainment in Chinese. There's a number of people that have done that before, and it always sells very well. So, like, the immediate, I'm not gonna lie, like, the immediate reason I did that is because, like, people, like, you know, the record labels and everyone were kind of asking me, like, yo, write a song in Chinese. It don't have to be a whole album or nothing. Just write one or two, you know. But what I wanted to do was because a lot of these other foreigners that would write a song in Chinese, it would be so fucking stupid. You know what I mean? I wanted to really make a meaningful song. So, like, I put a lot of time into thinking about what I wanted to say and, like, really crafting the lyrics. And it was a challenge, bro. It's a much different language that it doesn't, like, roll off your tongue in the same way that English does. You know what I mean? It's very, like, there's a lot of one-syllable words. So it's like you have to kind of figure out how to say those fast enough that it sounds kind of rhythmic. So I don't know. It was a challenge, and I think I rose to the challenge. You know, that first song I wrote did very well, and I've released a few more since then.
That's what I was reading out there. The hip hop over there is like, it's more of a no disrespect, but it's more of, it's simple. And it's not as complex as what we have over here in the United States, you know.
Well, definitely as far as like the rhyme schemes, yeah. Like, I think a language like English is just more suited to coming up with complex rhymes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it seems like a lot of, you know, kids these days don't really value that. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Too.
It depends. Yeah. But I'm just saying, generally speaking.
So do you see a difference from, because I hear this a lot, brother, do you see a difference between from the love and support you receive overseas versus the US as an artist? Like, how do you feel? You feel like there's a larger support system overseas than the US?
I
know you got a lot to say on that
one. It was weird, like, I don't know how. So I started doing almost immediately when I released my first album in like 2013 or something like that. I didn't know how to distribute it very well at the time. I think I just put it on Bandcamp. But almost immediately I tried to start doing shows in other countries, including the US. You know what I mean? And so I was reaching out to people in Europe, people in Korea, Japan, and then also people back home in the US. And it was very rare that someone from the US would pay much attention in the beginning. And that was a little hurtful, you know what I mean? But I get it, you know what I mean? I was kind of away, I was abroad, and people didn't really know my name. And it's so saturated nowadays that it's hard to get even someone to give you the time to listen to your music, you know what I mean?
It's true. That's so true, man.
But I found that people in Korea, Japan, and then also a little bit in Europe were a little more receptive to that. So I started actually doing shows in other countries as well. I've toured in actually 7 countries.
Wow.
And so that's been a blessing, and it's interesting to compare each one, and like the audience response, the size of the crowd, you know what I mean? But I would say there's definitely, as an American, you automatically get respect when you're doing American music in another country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if you're not that good, you just automatically get respect because you're looked at as authentic. So you're definitely able to leverage that, and for better or worse, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's an interesting thing. But at the same time, there's a lot of talented people from other countries, you know, and sometimes they also might be, you know, a lot bigger than you, but they're showing you respect just because you're kind of from the home of where the culture comes from, you know what I mean?
That is beautiful. So correct me if I'm wrong. You signed One is the largest label in China, TMG, and also Pantheon Elite Records. How did that start, so man?
There's a bit of a story behind that. So yeah, it's the biggest Chinese record label, but at the same time, the American labels are out there too, like Sony and Warner and Universal. So when I say it's the biggest Chinese record label, it's the biggest Chinese-owned record label.
Oh, I see.
But yeah, they got a big influence. They got a decent size of the market. Before that, about a year before I signed with them, you know, on Instagram, this dude from Pantheon Elite Records hit me up. This record label is kind of interesting. It's an independent label that was started in Florida, actually. And the owner of the record label is a big social media influencer and intellectual. This dude is like a genius with social media, and he's also very intelligent in general. His name is Billy Carson. He's got over 4 million followers on various social media.
Wow.
And he was able to use that presence to build a record label. Now, it's still an indie thing. Their main artist is a dude from Atlanta named Donnie Arcade. And then they also had me on there, and then they got another artist from Florida named Cruz. And the vibe of the label is like conscious hip hop. You know what I mean? So it's a very niche kind of thing, but because Billy has such a presence on social media, he was able to get a lot of attention to the three of us, especially to Donnie, who is the main artist. So they hit me up, and they were kind of interested in my story, and we shared a lot of similar values. You know, I'm a big advocate of like yoga, meditation, and that sort of, and social justice issues, that sort of thing, Buddhism. And they're kind of on the same tip, so we connected in that respect. And then they brought me out we did a show in LA about a year or two ago, and I've been back in New York full time about a year now. And I did a few shows here, but yeah, I'm really looking to kind of tour the US in a bigger way, and hopefully they'll be able to hook that up. So anyway,
yeah, man, definitely.
I'm signed to this Chinese label, but then I also work with this Florida-based record label.
Okay. So your first album was released before you even signed with those labels. That was back in 2013, for what I'm gathering.
Correct. My first two albums, actually.
Oh, your first two. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So I took that, taking it back to that first album, man. I love it. I took that album as you pretty much explaining to people, this is who I am, what I've been through, and how I feel. Coming from you as an artist, what influenced that album in your own words? You know, just to kind of elaborate on with that.
That's an interesting question. You know, at the time I was in China, and like I said, I just felt the calling to get back into music. And how that actually first started was me really listening to a lot of different types of music. That's kind of how it first started. I started really getting into the history of music, and I started like, because I was in China, actually, you could download all these MP3s for free, because the US government wasn't able to control that shit. So I was like digging deep into like all types of music, bro, like soul, funk, reggae, jazz, blues, like the whole history of it, you know what I mean? And just listening carefully. And I was also learning guitar at the time.
Oh, really? Oh, man,
I play a little guitar. I'm not great, but I play a little bit.
Yeah.
And like a blues, jazz type of guitar. So I was really getting musical. And, you know, actually at that time also I had with a business partner of mine, we had built a studio in Beijing. and we were running a studio called No Play Studios. We ran it for about 6 years, and it's still running, but I'm no longer involved. But so that was an interesting experience. We were also recording live. We had 2 recording rooms, and we were recording live music in one of the rooms with like full piece bands that wanted to come through.
Oh, wow.
So I was learning a lot about music, you know what I mean, about production, about mixing, about, you know, and then like I said, the history of music. So that first album was kind of like me wanting to get back to America musically, and then also my experiences growing up, you know what I mean, and kind of touch back, like all the things I wanted to say that I just never did, kind of, you know what I mean. And so there was like some songs that were more political in nature, you know, there were songs that were just like having fun, songs that were like dark, songs that were uplifting. It was, and then songs that were emotional about love and romance. It was a whole range of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, it was, that first album was really raw. Like I didn't have much of a network built up as far as like how to get a good quality sound. You know what I mean? But it was still it was still like a work of art.
Oh yeah.
But later I was able to develop, you know, hey, I'll tell you this, like, I'm sure you know this, like, anyone that has dope music, it's not just them. They got a whole team behind them.
Oh yeah, that's true. That is
and
absolutely
it takes
true.
years to accumulate that team and have those people devoted to you as an artist. And so that took me a long time. You know what I mean?
You know what I love about the type of music that you push out is you could tell that you dabble in a lot of genres, that you actually go out and you listen to different types of music. You know, because a lot of artists, they only subject themselves to like where they're from. Like if you from the West Coast, or you from the East Coast, or you from the South,
Right.
you just want to make that type of music. Yeah, you just, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like, and you're proof, I feel like if you venture out and you dabble in other types of music, you become more creative as an artist.
Oh, for sure.
You know, and I see that in your music.
For sure. And I think we were talking about this before, like, the origins of hip hop are about sampling different genres. So like the early hip hop was really diverse. You know what I mean? It had rock influences, had soul and funk influences, and then later it had reggae influences, jazz, you know what I mean? Tribe Called Quest and all that, George Clinton. And so there were huge influences, and hip hop was like a way of taking different genres and making it into a new sound, you know what I mean? And so that's something that is beautiful that I think hip hop has kind of steered away from.
Yeah, I agree.
Hopefully we'll get back to that. Not entirely. Like I really liked Kendrick's "To Pimp a Butterfly."
Yeah, man.
And I thought that was a really good example of how he could fuse hip hop with other types of music in a contemporary way.
Yeah. Yeah, Kendrick is a dope artist, man. I tell you, love his.
Yes, sir.
Man,
he's definitely one of my favorite newer artists.
Yeah.
For sure.
I understand you're a J. Cole fan as well, man. We had that playing.
Yeah,
earlier.
Cole's another one.
Man,
I like Cole because he's deep, you know, and he's a real genuine person, and he stands for stuff. His music has a message, you know.
Yeah.
Kendrick is similar. I think Kendrick's a little more versatile with his style. But yeah, I love Cole, and I'm also a big Joey Badass fan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he got that New York sound. But I like there's a lot of new cats that I like.
Yeah.
I'm not a hater of the new music at all, but I feel that generally speaking, the quality of the rapping has deteriorated.
Yeah.
As far as like the rhyme schemes, the wordplay, that sort of thing.
Now your second album was released in 2015, titled "The Foundation." What inspired that and influenced that album?
I really wanted to, with that album, make like a classic boom bap album. And that's why it's called The Foundation, because to me that's the foundation of hip hop. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to make it a throwback album, but I wanted to kind of just take that boom bap sound and make it as new as I could. And yeah, I mean, it was a dope album because it was also the first time I kind of had the the opportunity to work with more different artists on the project. Like, my first album was, like I said, real low budget. It was mostly me on the album, and then working with like 2 or 3 producers. But the second album, it was like each song I chose a different producer. I got real involved in the executive production. Like, I brought in violinists and keyboardists and, you know, live drums, all types of stuff, because we had the studio.
Yeah.
So we had the luxury of not having to pay for that.
Wow.
So yeah, and I got a few different. I got some I got some female vocalists on there, and this one girl we got from Germany kind of did an interesting thing on one of the songs, and that was an interesting experience. So the way that came about was with the studio, we were doing a lot of our mixing for clients at the studio with studios in Germany. Like, a lot of the mixing and mastering we were doing in Germany. And when I had this song, I was kind of shopping it around. I had written all the lyrics and everything. I kind of was shopping it around to some people to see what kind of female vocalists I could get on there. And the mixer was like, yo, I know this girl. She's got an amazing voice. And so her name was Lisa Rowe. She was actually quite big at the time in Europe. She had like a big hit in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
She got like, you know, it's several million views on YouTube and all that. So there's a real funny story behind it. Like, she got on the track and she definitely did an amazing job. She got a really nice voice and everything.
That song is banging, man. I gotta tell you.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Oh,
It's
man.
it's a deep, you know, it's a heartfelt song. It's a pop song, but it's heartfelt. It's real.
Yeah.
And anyway, we got her on the song, and then later I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go to Germany and shoot a video, and I ended up like organizing a show out there as well. So we had planned this whole video shoot in Berlin, and you know, I'm coming out of pocket to pay for it. I didn't have a deal or nothing, so it's all me funding everything. I flew out there, and 2 days before I arrived, she decides to dye her hair green. And it wasn't on some like Rihanna green that looked nice. It was on some really hideous, like, my God, that's embarrassing shit. Like, I can't believe she would do that. She knows we're about to shoot a video, you know what I mean? But she had a little bit of this diva type mentality. And I didn't want to, the last thing I wanted to do was piss her off and have her back out of the video.
Exactly. Yeah.
So before I even meet her in person, I just suggest I hit her up on Facebook, because I seen the pictures on Facebook. I just hit her up. I was like, yeah, you know, I'm thinking about doing the video in black and white. You know what I mean? Because then you wouldn't be able to see her ugly green hair.
Yep.
Which is a funny thing, but like, she didn't even realize that's why. I don't think she realized. And I ended up convincing her. And so we found this director that was like dope at black and white video. And it came out as a dope video. Like, we shot it in 2 days in Berlin.
Yeah, man.
And yeah, you never know that her hair is green.
Wow, man. Would have never took that from that video, man. I watched this
Yeah,
video.
you can't tell. It doesn't look like it.
Wow.
So it's a fun story.
Oh, man. Now, I love that title of the album, Bare Knuckle Soul.
Yeah.
Man,
Welcome back.
man, that's a dope track, man. I'll tell you.
Yeah, that's some just real raw lyrical type of.
You went in on that one.
Yeah, get you amped.
Oh,
That
man.
type of song.
Well, let's talk about some of the collabs, man. Let's get more into that. I want
No
to
doubt.
know the collab you did with rap artist Cruz on a track titled Different Reaction. Man, that's incredible. Man, how did that come about?
That was one of the first tracks when I first got in touch with Pantheon. I don't remember if that was the first one, but they started out by like, yo, we like your style and all that. Like, why don't you hop on one of the tracks? And I don't remember if that was the first one, but that was one of the first ones. And that eventually led to me working with them in a more like, you know, formal way. And they distributed my second album.
Wow.
And Cruz is like, he's like a full-time dad, you know what I mean? But he works and all that, which is cool and everything. But he just was like, yeah, you know, I think he had a few tracks that he had like on the shelf, and he was like ready to put out an EP. And they just gave me that track, and they were like, yeah, drop a verse on this because Cruz doesn't have enough time to finish it. And yeah, I just went in on that, and the video's not great, but the track is dope. And I don't know how, but they pitched it to someone at Spotify, and they got it put on like a really big playlist, and that shit just went viral. So it's got a lot of hits on Spotify. It got like 250,000.
Man.
So we were real lucky, and that was for Cruz. That that was his first EP, so that was a wild thing. So shout to Cruz for hooking that up. And yeah, that's a dope song.
You also did something with Natural Born Spitters, right? NBS. Man, how did that come about, man?
Shout to Flash and V-Nux. So those are my dudes. They came out to China. That's how I first met them.
Yeah.
I was aware of some of the people they roll with, because they're kind of, well, they're cool with Onyx. They're cool with like Jedi Mind Tricks. They're cool with a lot of these New York heads. Yeah. What's the dude's name? The Puerto Rican dude that spits bars.
Anyway. Been around for a while? Oh.
He's from New York. He's from Brooklyn. My bad. I'm slipping. His name is slipping. But anyway, they're cool with a lot of people. They roll with a lot of circles. They came out, and one of the things that's interesting about them is they also have taken their whole operation overseas. And so those dudes have been to like 20 different countries. They've toured all over Europe, Asia, Latin America, Africa. They've been everywhere. And they came to China, and they were asking around for a studio, or somehow we got linked. And we did a song, I think back in 2016 or something. We did a song together, which was eventually put on one of my albums. We did a little lyric video, and it's a dope song. I mean, it's not, we did it kind of in a short time, but it's a dope song. Yeah. It's real lyrical. It's called We Walk in Cypher. And what ended up happening is that they came back the year later, and they wanted to do a whole Asia tour with me.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, that was dope.
What was that like, man?
They had a few links in Malaysia and one link in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And they basically approached me like, yo, if you can throw some additional shows on the list, like we'll do a whole Asia tour. Well, let's do 3 countries. They like organized, I think, 4 shows, and I ended up organizing like 3 shows in China and 2 shows in Japan. So in total, we did like 10 or 11 shows in 3 different countries, and our show was wild, bro. We traveled together for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And that was dope. Those dudes are mad cool, real humble. They're the type of dudes that like just get in there and mix with everybody. You know what I mean? Always networking, always representing their brand. Always spitting, always collaborating, and they keep it real humble, always welcoming their fans, getting like, you know, down and dirty with their fans kind of thing. So I learned a lot from them as far as like how to build a fan base, you know what I mean? I would say those dudes are experts at that from an independent perspective. Wow. And so we ended up collaborating on a few more songs, but like those songs never really made the cut. We did a song in Japan together, and we did another song in Beijing. But I don't know why, they just never been released. But we do have that one song, which is really a monster. Yeah, it's called, that's one of my joints. Yeah, so shout to V-Nux and Flash. Those are my homies.
Oh, we left something out, man. You and I talked about this. You're a huge reggae fan as well, man.
Yeah, most definitely.
We're going to get into this. I know you pushed out a track with reggae artist Bugle. How did you and Bugle link up with the track Sound the Alarm? And that's a dope track.
So this is an interesting story. Like you said, I'm a big reggae head.
Yeah.
And I've done some collabs because in Beijing I was actually instrumental in helping put together the first China-based reggae label. It's called DB Bros Records, and they're still doing it. And they had released a lot of international collabs between Jamaican artists and Chinese artists. And I was on a few of their songs. And I got on the album with like Chuck Fender and Iwan. I started kind of getting more involved in the reggae scene. Although I was a reggae fan for long before that, but because of that label, I was kind of more involved. They brought me more into the space, and you know, they have a lot of links with a lot of reggae artists. So I was asking, I had a few demos, and I was asking, I had this big producer named Looney Tunes, who's from LA. He had created this reggae type beat, and I had written my verses already, and I had a demo. And I was asking my boy from this label, DB Bros, I was like, yo, let's find like a mid or big size Jamaican artist to get on the song. So we shopped it around, and initially we contacted a few people. We contacted Capleton, we contacted Phantom Moja, who is another big reggae artist, and those first two artists didn't respond. And so then we hit up Bugle, and I'm a big fan of Bugle. He's a really talented artist that's kind of a little bit, he's now becoming more bigger, but he's a little bit underrated, but he's very talented. Yeah, we hit him up, and he like checked out some of my music, and he really liked this video I shot, Face the Morning Sun, because it was shot in Brixton in London, and he's got like family in Brixton or something like that, and he was like, yeah, I really like that song, so I definitely want to work with you. And I was like, alright, dope. And he sent me his cut for everything the next day, bro. He just got in the studio and sent all the vocals, you know, worried about all the financial stuff later. He was like, ladies, you just send it to me. Wow. And I was just so shocked by that, because it was so dope too. Yeah. And that dude has just been so supportive when he doesn't really know me that well. But I guess he just liked my music or respected my hustle or whatever. So what ended up happening was, a few weeks after that, Phantom Moja ended up contacting me, because he was one of the original artists we tried to get in touch with. And that dude's even bigger than Bugle. And he was like, let's do this song. I'm down to do it or whatever. And I was like, yo, I'm sorry. Like, I feel really bad. Like, I have much respect for you, but I already did the song. Like, you know what I mean? You're a little bit late. And he's like, well, then let's do another song. So that's how I ended up doing a song with Fountain as well.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, Bugle, yeah, he was very supportive, and then we ended up scheduling a video shoot in New York. He came in the summer for a show, and we ended up shooting a video in Washington Heights for about a day. And that dude, you know, he not only did he help support the music, but he introduced me to a really talented, well-respected Jamaican director named Jay Will.
Oh yeah, man.
Who was the dude that shot the video. That dude shot videos for Damian Marley and you know, Shaggy, and that dude was very humble, man. He gave me a really good price. Wow. And then also Bugle helped introduce me to a Connect to get the video on MTV and BET. And I'm also thankful the song just recently got on a big Apple Music playlist as well.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm really blessed to have that, and it's a dope song.
Welcome back.
Man, I tell you, I got a lot of favorites of your tracks, man. I tell you. Oh man.
Bless.
God,
yeah.
That one there is like, oh, it hit home, man. I mean, seriously.
I feel like it's a good fusion, bro. Like, a lot of hip hop reggae fusions don't necessarily hit that hard. I'm not to be arrogant or anything, but it's a good fusion.
No, I mean, that right there, man, is just, you don't hear a lot of tracks out like that, man. And it's something that you could pretty much put on heavy rotation and ride. Especially if you're riding in your car all night. You could ride all night long to that.
Bless, yeah.
Man, oh man.
So yeah, sound the alarm. Let them know.
Yeah, brother. So in future, man, who else would you like to collab with in the future?
I definitely want to collab with some more hip hop artists. Mm-hmm. Like, most of my collabs, I mean, MBS is an exception, but most of my collabs have been with like reggae artists or more soulful R&B artists. Yeah. Which is dope because, as I mentioned, I like having that fusion, that blending of sounds, you know what I mean? But I also want to collab with more hip hop artists, you know what I mean? I want to collab with, like, I would love to collab with like Joey Badass or like Royce the 5'9" or something like that. Oh
man, yes.
I mean, if I wanted to get bigger, I don't think I could touch anyone bigger than that. But that would be a blessing. That would really be a blessing. Royce is a beast.
Yes, he is.
And so is Badass. And Badass got that Jamaican roots, that Caribbean roots anyway. Yeah. So he did some songs with Chronics and shit. So I think he's up on that. But yeah, but like I said, I'm a big fan of the reggae, and it's not just the sound of it. It's also the kind of message behind it. You know what I mean? I have a lot of respect for Rastafari, even though I'm not black, but you know, I really respect the message and the spirituality behind it. You know what I mean? So I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What are some of the things that you've accomplished already? What's some that you're most proud of right now? I know you did a lot of things, man. Seen a lot.
You mean outside of music?
Yeah, what you most proud of? With music or either outside of music?
Again, like, I'm just proud that I lived a unique life. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I haven't made a lot of money. I'm not, you know, not that that's the most important thing, but like, I always followed my heart, and I had the courage to like completely change my life around when things were going bad. You know what I mean? Not only had the courage, I had the willpower to do it.
Yeah.
And then I'm the type of dude that I like doing shit differently, and if something makes sense to me, I'm gonna do it no matter what anyone else says, and no matter what the obstacles are. I'm a very persistent, hardworking person, so I'm just proud of the life I led. You know, I've traveled to over 15 countries, and again, not on a huge budget or anything, just like figuring out how to do it. Like I'm an incredibly curious person, and I like learning and shit. You know? Yeah. So there's nothing like an education when you travel to another country. And that's a real education. It's so much more deeper than reading a book. You know what I mean, it's like you're really learning.
Yeah.
And some people like to go to another country and chill at the hotel, go to the beach, go shopping. That's cool too. I'm not hating on that, but there's something about getting in touch with another people, listening to another language being spoken, trying to understand the way they think. And then it kind of humbles you down, and it allows you to question the way you think, and then maybe see things from a different perspective. You know what I mean? And so that's been a blessing.
It's beautiful, man, and interesting that you say you're an established artist, but you don't have a whole lot of money, you know. And I find that pretty impressive that you would say something like that, because I speak about this all the time. It's like, if you're passionate with what you're doing, you know, the money is always there. It's always there. You can't see it, but it's always there. But if you keep doing what you're doing, and you're passionate about what you're doing, and you keep grinding, before you know it, man, the money, it's gonna come everywhere. It's gonna come in. And people don't see that, man. People don't see that. You know, but when there's a will, there's a way, right?
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? And you're proof of that. You're proof of that. When there's a will, there's a way. You made a way.
And I feel like there's so many ways now to get funding. Like there's like Kickstarter and all these new internet technologies. You know, I'm on the blockchain and all that. There's so many ways. Or just get someone to invest in your music. You know what I mean? Or get a brand to sponsor you. I mean, there are ways to do it. And so it's about the hustle and knowing how to network and that sort of thing. You know? So,
what's your advice for like artists that's up and coming, that's trying to enter the music industry? What's some of the things to watch out for? Things that you've gone through that you wish, you know, you don't want to see anyone else go through?
Well, I would say there's always a warning to be careful how you spend your money. So if you do get money and you're looking to invest in your music, make sure you have a plan and a strategy about how to invest it right, and find people. Because like we said before, it's about building a team behind you.
Yeah.
So you got to have people you trust that are honest, because you're going to end up paying some of these people to work on your behalf, you know. So you got to have people you trust that are going to spend the money in the right way, that are transparent about how to spend the money.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. But beyond that, nowadays, I think you have to have a significant fan base already to get to the next level, which would be a record deal. Yeah, I'm not even saying you have to necessarily have a record deal, but if you want that bigger investment money, it's, you know, you're gonna need someone to get behind you, and they're only gonna invest in you if you already have a big fan base. So it's about figuring out ways, utilizing the tools like social media or the traditional way of touring and all that to build up your fan base. And so it's about really studying those tools. I remember when I was getting deep into it, you know, you only have so much time during the day, and I was caught. I was like, should I learn production really well and become a dope producer, or should I learn marketing? You know what I mean? And it's a choice. If you're an independent artist, you have to do a lot of different roles. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
And I'm not saying that I necessarily made the right choice, but I think me studying different aspects of marketing, how to build your brand, how to use social media, and how to promote, definitely gave me an edge, and it allowed me to get to that next stage. So, like, if you have a dope video and a dope song and all that, but you don't know how to get it out there, you don't know how to get people to listen to it, it's not going to do it. You know, you're not going to get to the next level.
Absolutely. I think that's the problem with a lot of artists too, man. It's like, it's a lot of great talent out there, man, but they don't know how to market themselves. They don't know how to push themselves out, and then they go with people that might not be, you know, I'll leave it as healthy.
Right.
You know, might not be to their best interest to actually be involved with that person. I'll just put it that way, you know.
Yes, sir. And there's a lot of examples in hip hop of that happening.
Yeah. It's sad, man.
So I would say those would be my suggestions. Learn how to market, build a fan base, and then build a team up, and watch and make sure you got people you trust on your team.
That's right. Now, I gotta mention this, man. Yaz the Face put us on, man, introduced us. And I want to give a shout out to Yaz, man. Yaz the Face. Make sure y'all check out her podcast. We got another one coming out, Yaz the Face podcast. But I gotta ask you, man, how did you meet Yaz, man? She put us on, man. Shout out to Yaz.
She's an Instagram head like me, and I think we had connected like maybe a year ago, maybe a little earlier, but there wasn't too much contact. You know what I mean? It was like I was aware of her, she might have been aware of me. But at some point, for whatever, I think I had released Let Me Clear My Throat, maybe, or maybe it was a little bit before that, but she had seen one of my videos and I guess paid a little more attention to it and just was super supportive, you know what I mean? So I'm indebted to her. She's helped me out a lot, and it's funny because she's an Australian girl, and she had to help me link with certain people here in America. So it's funny how an outsider can do that, but so she's now an insider because it's all global anyway. It's a global community, you know what I mean? So
that's right, man.
Shout out to Yaz.
Shout out
much
Yaz,
love and blessings.
So let me ask you this, man. What can we expect from Jackson Turner in the future? Could you fill the listeners in on what you can reveal in like future shows, collabs, new videos, upcoming events?
Yeah, I just released this album in November, so probably see, I signed a 3-album record deal, so I'll probably see another album in 2019 or possibly the beginning of 2020. I'm not gonna do a whole long album because it's not really about that unless you're a big artist. I'll probably do a short album again, like 8 to 10 songs. But yeah, that's kind of up in the air. Like I have maybe 1 or 2 songs I could put on a new album, but I'm gonna have to start creating it again from scratch. So that's in the works. And then I got some shows coming back up. I'm going back to China to do some shows, maybe I think in May. I forget. I gotta speak to the label. And then Yaz was talking about maybe doing some shows in Australia. I've been networking since I've been back in New York. I've been getting close with a crew of MCs called End of the Week. And they're more on freestyle battling type of circuit. But their organization is like big internationally. They have chapters in 12 countries. And they do every year they run like a freestyle competition, and every year they do the world championships in another country. And so I was with them in October. We went out to Paris, and leading up to the competition, they have some shows and stuff throughout Paris. So we did a few shows out there, and so I'll definitely do that again this year, as well as like opening up for some of their competitions here in New York.
Wow.
And then besides that, I got an interview with, it's like a video interview coming up in the next few weeks with one, I forget the name, but it's one of these like online YouTube channels that does like interviews with artists. And so I'm gonna take a look out for that. I'll be reposting on my social media.
Oh, beautiful.
And then my goal, I would love to get more shows, like I said, and do like a nice tour here in the United States. You know what I mean? I've only done one show in LA, and I've done a few shows here in New York. But I'd love to really tour throughout the whole country and like start building a more solid fan base here. You know? So
exactly, man. They gotta know about you, man. You got a lot of great content and a lot to say, man.
Yeah, well, hopefully, you know, that's why we're networking today. That's why we're doing this show. Hopefully, I can get some of the audience to listen to my music. So.
Oh, speaking of that, can you let the listeners know how to find you, like your social media plugs, websites, how they can reach you?
Yeah, I got my main 3 channels: YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram. That's what I'm on the most. I do have other channels as well as a website, but I don't only have enough time to be active really on all of them. But generally my name, Jackson Turner, is in all of the handles. Specifically on Instagram, you could hit me up on Jackson Turner Official. My YouTube channel, just search Jackson Turner, it'll come right up. And then Spotify as well. So yeah, Twitter I think is like Jackson Turner MC. And then I got a website, jacksonturnermusic.com. So yeah, much love. I appreciate you following me. If you're into the music, and send me a shout. I'm very humble. I try to answer everyone that comments and all that. So you know,
hit this guy up, man. Y'all missing out if y'all don't check out Jackson Turner, man. Y'all are missing out, man. I'm telling you, he got a lot to say, and he probably can relate to you. Whatever you going through, man, he probably got a track out that relates to what you're going through. I'm here to tell you, man. Check him out, Jackson Turner, man.
Yeah. I'll hit you back.
Brother, it was nice having you on the show, man. I appreciate you calling in and just giving us your time, man. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, shout to you, DJ King Jones. That's what's up. I really appreciate you. You're a deep brother. And, man, I just, don't take this the wrong way. I love the sound of your voice, bro.
Oh, man, I appreciate it, man.
It reminds me of someone I grew up with.
Oh, really?
A similar quality of the voice. Yeah, it's just real laid back and smooth and charismatic. There's something about it that captivates me. It's dope.
Nah, don't take that the wrong way, man. If two men can't talk like that, man, then what's the world coming to? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no doubt.
No, I don't have to say pause or no homo.
Right.
That's right.
So yeah, thank you for having me, and shout again once more to Chill Lover Radio, and shout to all my peoples. You know what I mean? Apex Zero from London. Shout to DB Bros, General Huge. Again, shout to MBS. Shout to all the reggae heads. Yeah, it's much love and respect.
Beautiful, man. Hey, man, remain on the line, man. We gonna chop it up real quick. Chill Lover Radio listeners, thank you for tuning in, dedicating your time to us this evening with my man Jackson Turner. Man, you welcome back anytime, brother. Anytime.
Thank you, and I hope to be back.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
All right. Then.
Salute to the Chill Lover Radio listeners. Thank you guys for tuning in. Good night.
Bless.
That's right. Keep it locked right here where you got it. It's Chill Lover Radio.